Okay, so visualization. So, have you ever had a dream that just seemed so real that when you woke up, you didn't even remember that it was a dream at first? You were like, my mother used to ask me all the time, did this really happen or did I dream it? Because she used to have very, very acute visual dreams. Our mind has a really amazing ability to be able to create. And what's really interesting about our mind is that it thinks in pictures. And so, as we start thinking about goals that we want to be able to achieve and where we're going in life, the more that we can put that into pictures and super, super clear pictures, the easier it is for our mind to be able to see that and then be able to really help get us there. So when we create and imagine things in a positive way, then it really and tie positive emotion to it, then it reaches our subconscious mind faster. The more feeling and emotion that we attach to images, the the easier it is for our subconscious mind to get on board. Again, we have to do it in the present. So as we're realizing and we're dreaming and we're imagining where it is that we want to go, we really want to be able to make that as real as possible. So, kind of like that dream. I just had one the other night, and I was looking out the window, and there was amazing. It was almost like Niagara Falls, except for that they were in layers, and so they were steeper falls, and it was magnificent. And I've thought about it every day since because it was just so clear in my dream. I really love it when I have dreams like that. It's just they're nice. So just kind of brings me back to it. Um, so when visualization is done in a negative way, however, it will help our subconscious mind to find those negative things for us as well. So again, really important that we're looking at where we want to go, think in the positive of where we want to be, not where we don't want to be, because just as in the sugar, the subconscious mind doesn't hear the do or the don't. It just hears the sugar. So it just hears the health goal or the fitness goal or the weight goal, whatever it is that we want. We want to always be thinking about not where we are, but where we're going to, and think about being there right now. Sometimes I see sayings on Facebook, and I should be able to quote who it originally came from, but I can't. But they say that, oh gosh, now I forgot the quote. um, oh, well, I guess it's gone, so we'll forget it. If it comes back to me, I'll share it when it comes back. All right. So in Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, the devil talks about fear as being one of his uh, biggest tools that he uses to be able to steer people off of achieving their goals and positive things. He uses planting the seed of doubt and worry to think about what might go wrong. So, I have conversations with people and we're talking about the ways going forward, and all of a sudden, well, what if? Well, what if? Well, what if? Well, what if? Well, there's always a what if. No matter what it is that you do, you can tie a what if to it. It's just that when it's something that's familiar to you, you don't tie the what if to it. You only do when it's something unfamiliar, and that's our subconscious mind trying to get us not to do it. It's that fear and that seed of fear which will always prevent us from getting where we want to go. So as you start thinking about health and nutrition, people are like, so let's just take moringa, right? Sometimes I share the product with people and they'll be like, well, what if it does this to me? Or what if it does that to me? Or what if it does this to me? And I often wonder to myself, well, when the doctor prescribes them a new medication, do they say, well, what if it does this to me, or what if it does that to me? Because usually there's a laundry list of warning labels that come with these medications and the possibilities of things that happen. But because it's a doctor that prescribed it, people trust their doctor, and therefore they trust the medication, even though all of the exact same what ifs, probably more what ifs, actually happen based on that medication. It's part of the reason that I've gone off of medications is simply because, being a nurse for so many years, I've seen the complications from medications, and they do have their place, and I have seen them do really wonderful things, but I've also seen the reverse side of it. I don't just assume the good that's going to come from the medication. I know that there's an opposite effect as well. And so, having been researching the natural health, is why I really glean towards the natural health, because if it's not natural that we're putting into our bodies, then our risk is much, much, much greater. And, God intended us to be able to get our nourishment and our nutrition from the environment that we live in. So really, as we're doing visualizations and just, kind of getting a little bit back to the context of visualization, think about what we want in the positive, that we've already accomplished it. And that's really where we're going with the visualization. So Wolfgang Sonnenberg describes fear as false evidence appearing real. Wolfgang Sonnenberg actually describes fear as fantasy. And so what I like to think about is, if you have a lot of fear, then that means you have a tremendous ability to be able to create, and to really be able to create positive things instead of those negative things, because fear is creation. It's just creation in a negative form. So let's turn that around and use that creative ability to create in a positive form. It's so much better for us. So if we can get over that fear factor, then that really is important as we move into visualization. And that's why I'm spending a bit of time talking about fear, because it's really important to be able to understand fear in order to be able to then move forward with visualization. Because fear is a feeling, it's not fact, yet still we let that feeling rule our lives. And some of our fears are so deep-seated, they come from when we are, really young. Napoleon Hill, in his book Outwitting the Devil, he also challenges the status quo of not only the school system, but also our religious systems, because he said both of those instill fear in us from a very, very young age. The religious systems instill in us a fear of God. A fear of the devil. And so we have this fear of going to hell. We have a fear that the devil's going to rule. And in his book, that in this, quote unquote interview that he is doing with the devil's like, yeah, I love that. They are helping me so much. All I have to do is feed on that fear, and I'm able to get people to go in the direction that I want them to go, rather than to be really realizing their true potential. And the school systems as well, we're taught that failure is a bad thing, when actually failure is a method of learning. And so we learn through mistakes that we make. If we never made any mistakes, then we potentially wouldn't learn nearly as much, because there's an emotional impact tied to those mistakes. And then that helps to really be able to, as long as we seek out the lesson that's in that mistake, we can then go ahead and move forward. So one of our challenges this week is to be able to understand the factors that drive us, and to be able to understand, what are the fear factors that prevent us from doing what it is that we need to do. There's always something, and we don't always pay attention to it. We just dig our heels in and say, no, I'm not going to do that. And if we really dig deeper as to what it is that we're trying to avoid, we can kind of ferret out what is that underlying fear, because there's really always going to be that underlying fear. So going back to Tony Robbins and how he says we're driven by the desire for pleasure, or the to avoid pain. And so fear is perceived as pain, and as a result, or it's perceived pain, and so as a result, once we feel that fear, we stop doing it because we think that there's pain on the other side of it. Bob Proctor says if you walk through that terror barrier, that initial, oh my God, fear, then there's always a reward at the other end of it. The problem is it's such a barrier that most people don't walk through it, and so as a result, they just stay exactly where they are. And that's really what happens, with us and dealing with fear with our health and weight management. So I experienced the terror barrier once with weight management. I was reading Mark Hyman's The Blood Sugar Solution, and I was walking as I was listening to the audio book, and I was really understanding what he was sharing in the book, and I was starting to just almost unconsciously put some of these practices into place, and I was starting to see really positive health effects. And all of a sudden, I just, I allowed the scale to really rule me, and I dropped a whole lot of weight fast, and then it scared me, and I felt like that, oh my God, this can't be good. I'm going to lose too much weight too fast. And I literally was totally 100% encompassed with that fear. And I was like, nope, I need to eat more. I need to eat differently. I need to go back to my old ways. And then, of course, I immediately halted the progress that I was making. And it took me years to be able to gain that momentum back again. And I didn't understand what it was at the time. Now, in hindsight, I learned what it was, and I was like, I should have just kept going. But I didn't know. And so, now I do know, but it gives me the opportunity to be able to, kind of explain it to you a little bit better, because I understand it a little bit better. There is a simple antidote to fear. And it's may seem like an oxymoron, but the antidote is actually pretty simple. It's action. Just simply take action. So, how sometimes, people will say oh, just sweep it under the rug, but it doesn't get rid of the problem when you sweep it under the rug. It just makes a bigger pile under the rug, and so eventually you're climbing up over a hill every time you get into, walk on that rug. So it's the same kind of thing. Fear just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And the way that you stop it from building, and the way that you are able to just kind of walk through it, is to take action. Just do something positive, that goes opposite of that fear. And then you're able to kind of realize, okay, that there's not that fear. I posted the video of Will Smith in our Facebook group, and he's talking about jumping, parachuting out of a plane. It's a pretty funny video, but it's a great example of walking through that fear barrier. So just important to be able to understand that, take a step, and even a baby step is a step, and every step that you take then, walks you through that. And as you keep taking those steps, you get stronger, and that fear becomes less and less until finally the fear is gone. So important that we really understand the fear before we really truly get into the visualization. And so now let's really get into visualization.